Have you ever felt like you are the only one trying to do the right thing in a world that's gone completely sideways? It can be lonely, right? Well, today we're diving into an ancient story about a man who knew that feeling all too well. His name was Noah, and his story is one of the most famous of all time. But it's more than just a tale about a big boat and a lot of animals. It's a powerful lesson about faith, obedience, and the incredible promise of a fresh start. So let's journey back to a time described in the book of Genesis. The world had become a pretty dark place. The Bible tells us that humanity's thoughts were continuously evil, and this deeply grieved God. It was a world filled with corruption and violence, a far cry from the paradise he had intended. Imagine the disappointment, the heartbreak, seeing something you created with love turn so far from its purpose. God saw this widespread wickedness and decided to wash the world clean, to hit the reset button, so to speak. But in the middle of all this chaos, there was one man who stood out. His name was Noah. Genesis 6:9 describes him as a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Think about that for a second. In a culture where everyone else was going one way, Noah chose to go another. He wasn't perfect, but his heart was turned toward God. He actively chose to live a life that honored his Creator, even when it made him an outsider. It was this relationship, this faithfulness, that set him apart and caught God's attention. So God came to Noah with a plan. It was a staggering, almost unbelievable plan. He told Noah, "I am going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens." But then came the words of hope. "But I will establish my covenant with you." God was going to save Noah and his family. And how? He gave Noah a very specific set of instructions. Build an ark. This wasn't just any boat. God laid out the blueprints with incredible detail. It was to be made of cypress wood, covered inside and out with pitch to make it waterproof. The dimensions were massive, 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. To give you a modern perspective, that's about 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. That's a football field and a half long. It was to have lower, middle, and upper decks, a roof, and a door in the side. This was an enormous undertaking, a construction project of epic proportions. And here's where Noah's obedience really shines. The Bible simply says, Noah did everything just as God commanded him. He didn't argue. He didn't ask, "Are you sure? A boat this big? In the middle of dry land?" He didn't say, "What will the neighbors think?" He just trusted and got to work. Can you imagine the scene? For years, possibly decades, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, would have been working on this colossal vessel. People would have walked by, scoffing, laughing, and calling him crazy. Look at old Noah, building a boat with no water in sight. He's lost his mind. Through all the ridicule, Noah kept his focus. He wasn't just building a boat. He was building a vessel of salvation based on a promise from God. His actions were a testament to his faith. He believed God, even when what God asked seemed completely illogical to the world around him. This is a crucial part of the story. True faith often requires us to act in ways that don't make sense to others. Then, God gave the next set of instructions. Noah was to bring his wife, his sons, and their wives into the ark. But they wouldn't be alone. God commanded him to bring animals onto the ark as well, 2 of every kind, a male and a female, to keep their species alive. For the clean animals, the ones suitable for sacrifice, he was to bring 7 pairs of each. This wasn't just about saving humanity. It was about preserving all of creation. It was a rescue mission for the entire planet. Imagine the logistics, gathering animals from all over, leading them into this massive wooden structure. It would have been a sight to behold, a parade of creatures guided by a divine hand. Once everyone and everything was safely aboard, Noah, his family, and the pairs of animals, God himself shut the door. This is a profound detail. It signifies that the time for choosing was over. The period of grace had ended. God secured them inside, protecting them from what was about to happen. Then the rain began. For 40 days and 40 nights the heavens opened up, but it wasn't just rain. Genesis says the springs of the great deep burst forth as well. Water came from above and below. The flood was catastrophic, covering the entire earth. The water level rose so high that it submerged even the tallest mountains. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils perished. It's a somber and terrifying image, a stark reminder of the consequences of turning away from our Creator. Inside the ark, however, it was a different story. Noah and his family were safe. They were tossed about on the churning waters, floating above the destruction. They were a tiny island of life in a world reclaimed by the sea. For 150 days, the water prevailed upon the earth. Imagine the sounds, the feeling of confinement, the utter reliance on God for survival. Their obedience had led them to this place of safety. While the world outside was being judged, they were being saved. But God did not forget Noah. After the 150 days, God sent a wind to sweep over the earth, and the waters began to recede. The ark, which had been floating freely, eventually came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Slowly, patiently, the water levels dropped. Noah waited. He sent out a raven, which flew back and forth until the water had dried up. Then he sent out a dove. The first time it returned, finding no place to land. A week later, he sent it out again, and this time it came back in the evening with a freshly plucked olive leaf in its beak. This was the sign Noah had been waiting for. The olive leaf was proof that the waters had receded enough for new life to begin. It was a symbol of peace and a new beginning. After waiting another 7 days, he sent the dove out one last time, and it did not return. The earth was ready. After more than a year inside the ark, God finally said, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it." So Noah and his family and all the animals disembarked onto a clean new world. The air must have smelled so fresh, the ground so pure. What was the very first thing Noah did? He built an altar to the Lord. Before building a house, before planting a field, his first act was one of worship and gratitude. He took some of the clean animals and offered them as a burnt offering on the altar. This act of worship pleased God, and in response, God made a beautiful and unconditional promise. A covenant not just with Noah, but with all of humanity and every living creature, for all generations to come. He said, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, and never again will I destroy all living creatures, as I have done." As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night, will never cease. And to seal this everlasting promise, God set a sign in the clouds, the rainbow. He said, "Whenever I bring clouds over the earth, and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant." So now, every time we see a rainbow, it's not just a beautiful scientific phenomenon. It's a divine reminder of God's faithfulness, His grace, and His promise of a fresh start. The story of Noah's Ark is so much more than a children's story. It's a profound narrative about the seriousness of sin and the incredible depth of God's grace. It shows us that obedience, even when it seems illogical and invites ridicule, is the pathway to salvation and blessing. Noah's faith wasn't just a feeling, it was an action. He built the ark. He gathered the animals. He trusted God through the storm. And because of his obedience, humanity was given a second chance. This story challenges us today. Are we willing to walk faithfully with God, even if it means going against the current of our culture? Are we willing to obey His call, even when we don't understand the full picture? Noah's life teaches us that one person, committed to following God, can make a world of difference. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to the time of Noah. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into these timeless accounts. Drop a comment below and let me know what part of Noah's story stands out to you the most. Until next time, keep seeking the truth.